Now here we have just a few pictures, still pictures, showing Dorade in her first rig. When she was first built and went to Bermuda, she had a little bit too much sail up high, and Olin cut the sail area down a bit, which made her just as fast apparently, and a little bit easier to sail. That was then the new rig that took the bowsprit off, and then generally we didn't use that jib topsail particularly any of the time. That's Dorade just sailing around, gives you a good idea of her under sail. And there she is at the start of the ocean race with a large jib set and the little mizzen staysail on there at the stern, ahead of the mizzen. A beautiful boat to sail, and she deserved, I think, all the credit she could get. Now that was our crew on board Dorade in Newport Harbor the day before the race started, with Olin Stevens in the middle, and then I have some names here that will identify the other crew. Altogether, a very wonderful trip, and it's what I call a summer to remember. It just couldn't have been better. There's Dorade in a sketch, not an actual photo, but it looks like one, and we actually looked like that at times, I'm sure, sailing if there'd been a photographer out in the middle of the ocean. That's our crew as we just after had thrown anchor down in Plymouth Sound at the end of the ocean race, and we were fated at various places. Even got admission to the old the fine English yachting club, which nobody's allowed to go into except a member. That's our crew for the Fastnet race. Briggs Cunningham in the middle of the back row and the Englishman on the left. And that was a brief but strong encounter. Rod later took Dorade over, I think a couple of years later in '33, and there was no race across, but he went back in the ocean race and won that again. To show there was no fluke. That was an all-amateur crew. There were only, I think, 3 or 4 in the ocean racing fleet who were all amateurs, and so we won the prize for the first all-amateur crew to finish too. That's the Fastnet Rock in just a local photograph. We'll remember that for quite a while. And there we are in Southampton, and rather a change in boats there. The Homerick up ahead of us, and we've got the sling set on Dorade to lift her up. A nice shot of her beautiful lines, and she was swung in over the big hold on the Homerick and rowed home. We were the center of attention on the ship, on the liner. A lot of people wanted to get on Dorade, which Olin was glad to have them do. And we had a special table to ourselves, and that was a nice trip. We got to New York Harbor and were greeted by the sanitation department band and the city welcome tug Macon, and taken off at quarantine and into the battery in style. And Mr. Stevens had been a prominent member of the New York Board of Trade, the Bronx Board of Trade, so he had many, many friends, and Rod and Olin had so many sailing friends, and So they arranged to have a little special greeting. We got down to the Battery and came in, got into a line of New York City welcome cars, the old 1931 Packards, open Packards, and rode in style up Broadway. We got some ticker tape, literally, and one or two telephone books even, just to make sure that we got our full measure of devotion. We rode up to City Hall and were greeted then by the mayor and his staff, Mayor Joe McKee on the left of Olin there. Joe had just succeeded, he was a fusion, so-called fusion mayor, combination party, and succeeded the famous Jimmy Walker, whom, as we then learned, had passed us on the way across the ocean on the liners going the other way. And as a last point, here is the food that we consumed, in case any of you are interested in trying this type of race or whatnot. But you see, we ate pretty darn well. The cook worked very hard on this, assembled over the months ahead of the race, assembled food, sorted it out, set it up in lots for different meals, had it stowed in burlap bags, and we had eggs which kept all summer long, and we kept them from getting rotten by turning them over, turning the crate over every day, and it kept the yolk from hitting the edge of the shells. The jar of sour balls was very refreshing along about 3 o'clock in the morning. So it was all a very, very happy ending to a very wonderful summer, I hope.